Yo, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the Locker Room. We are back with another huge episode. We are back with the Locker Room Mock Draft. It is probably the biggest episode on the channel, so I thought that I would bring it back to when I was about to say I mean my three guests here today, returning for the third time, I believe, on the podcast. We have my father, Sean Mitchelson. How you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Yep, not a problem. And then, who has been on here before, and I've been on their podcast, we have Chase and Mike from the WNP podcast. How you guys doing today?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. Appreciate you inviting us on the show.
Yeah, I'm doing awesome. So happy to be here. Looking forward to having some fantastic draft picks in this one. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, not a problem. Hopefully this is a bit more exciting than last year's, because last year's draft class, we did not have many quarterbacks to talk about, which was kind of underwhelming. But now we have a lot of quarterbacks to talk about, so should be fun. Should be fun.
We got 8 worthy of going in the first round. I'm excited.
8? Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a little DTR in the first round.
I got him going 6 to the Lions in my personal mock drafts.
Wow.
I'm honestly
All right.
a little bit upset I didn't get the Raiders because I think Stetson Bennett would be a fit there.
He's a winner, man.
He'd be a fit in the practice squad.
Hey, we'll see here in a few what happens. You never know.
All right, dude. No. All right. So as I mentioned on my Twitter, you guys saw that there was the first trade that we have ever done has been completed. So do you guys want me to reveal that trade right now or to when we get to the pick? It's up to you guys.
I'd say when we get to it.
Okay.
That works.
When we get to it, we will. All right. Well, we might as well just get this mock draft started. So I am on the clock first with the Carolina Packers, who acquired this number 1 overall pick from Chicago, giving up a buttload of picks. I believe it was 2 firsts, DJ Moore, and something else, something like that. But they move up to number 1 and are currently on the clock. I didn't even think about trading this pick back. I just didn't think it made sense to trade up and then trade back. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to use the pick. And we're also going to take a quarterback, but everyone should know which one is going to come off the board, because I think that the best quarterback, in my opinion, off the board should go here. So I'm going to take the guy who I think is the most NFL ready and can progress more. He can develop better, even though he is the most NFL ready. I'm going to take CJ Stroud, quarterback out of Ohio State, Carolina at 1.
I dig the pick.
Oh, that's fair. It's definitely fair. I like CJ Stroud. He comes in for me as my 6th overall player in the class by QB2. So there's definitely no hate here. I think it makes sense for what Carolina's going to need to go for. I don't know how high his ceiling is compared to a couple of these other quarterbacks, but I think he's someone who could be a little bit higher end what Jared Goff does. So what Jared Goff's height was so far in his career, maybe a little bit better than that.
And I think that CJ Stroud has a higher ceiling than the likes of Bryce Young. I have both of them actually tied as my quarterback 1 right now. And I am a little bit bigger of a CJ Stroud fan just because of that ceiling. When you look at Carolina,
there we go.
They have a solid defense. Frank Reich comes in as the new head coach. He's got to get the quarterback right. You could go with the safe floor and Bryce Young, which I think would make sense. They've got a leadership or a leader that comes in with Bryce Young as well. However, I think CJ Stroud, he is also safe when you compare him to the likes of Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and then I think he's got a better ceiling as well. One of the most accurate quarterbacks in this class. Excited to see him go there.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good pick. I think Stroud is my QB1. I see a lot of potential. I think his ceiling is a little bit higher than Bryce Young at this point, so I think that's a great pick.
Yeah, I'm not a Bryce Young guy, so this was a pretty easy pick for me. But if you want to see my full thoughts on that, go watch the quarterback rankings. But okay, CJ Stroud goes off the board at 101. That moves on to Mike. You have the Houston Texans. They are on the clock.
Yeah, and first off, Lannon's quarterback rankings are interesting
Amazing.
say the least. So you all should definitely go watch that episode. Definitely go watch the episode. But I'm happy you went with CJ Stroud here because I get to avoid the controversy. Right now, there's a lot of talk that Bryce Young might go number 1 in the actual draft. And if that's the case, what do the Texans do? Because CJ Stroud has the same agent as Deshaun Watson. Then do you look at Will Anderson? There's been talk that Tyree Wilson is their number 1 guy. They think he's got the highest ceiling on that edge. But thankfully, you went with Stroud. So this is the easiest pick I'm going to have in this draft. I'm taking Bryce Young to the Houston Texans. They get a leader. They get that guy. And they get a fantastic playmaker in the backfield. When the pocket collapses, there's no better quarterback in this class than Bryce Young when it comes to maneuvering that and extending the play. So very excited to see Bryce Young don a Texans uniform.
Oh, and I forgot to mention this, guys. This is not predictions. This is what we would do as the GM. Forgot to mention that at the beginning. So he takes Bryce Young. I think, Bryce Young makes amazing plays. He can make plays outside the pocket. But what worries me with him is I've seen a lot of times where he is getting blitzed and there's not a chance for him to escape the pocket. And he does 2 things that I don't like to see a quarterback do when they're in collapse. They make a bad decision and then they make a bad throw. I've seen him do that 2 times on film, and they do it at the same time. So that worries me a bit, but he is a great playmaker. I feel like if he goes to the right system, he can be a very good NFL quarterback. But if he goes to the wrong system, I do think that things can just collapse for him and he can really struggle. So thoughts on Bryce Young?
Yeah, slam dunk QB1 for me, or slam dunk pick, I should say, excuse me. QB1 for me. And, I can get what the Panthers wanting to go CJ Stroud. No first round pick next year. They definitely have to take it safe. And now that the Texans have the option for Bryce Young, it just makes too much sense for him. Even if things don't work out as well as he wants, or as well as they want, I should say, they'll have some more picks coming up. Where if the Panthers flop, they're kind of screwed. So pick makes absolute sense to me. I'm a big fan of his game. Yeah, the height might be an issue, but with his escapability and how well he works behind the line of scrimmage, and kind of like a Russell Wilson type of guy, I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. I'm not a huge Bryce Young guy. I worry about his size and durability. He does. He's obviously the most mobile quarterback and can get out of the pocket, and the escapability is great. But I think I just worry about him just taking that one hit. And I keep thinking back to the Georgia game a couple of years ago in the national championship game, and there's something about that game that they had him on the run, and he was kind of flustered. So I agree with the pick because of where the Texans are at. I'm just not a huge Bryce Young fan, but he'll probably prove me wrong and be a great NFL quarterback. But I can't complain about that pick.
And I got to say, I'd be flustered against that Georgia defense, too, if I'm being honest. But,
CJ Stroud wasn't. CJ Stroud wasn't, that's for sure.
But he was flustered by the Michigan defense.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think also with this pick,
but Max Duggan wasn't.
True. Oh, true.
The next Justin Herbert, eh?
Possibly. You never know. Better, because Justin Herbert sucks.
Oof.
Oh, okay.
One thing with this Texans pick real quick is the Texans are a poverty franchise right now. I think a lot of people know that. With Bryce Young, you're bringing in a leader. You're bringing in a good personality. You're bringing in a guy with the work ethic you want to build your team around. So I think that's why it's another slam dunk of a pick for the Texans. And I'm sure that the Texans, as the actual team, are hoping and praying that Bryce Young falls to them at 2.
Yeah. So Bryce Young goes to the Houston Texans, and now it would be Chase that would be up, but we had a little bit of a trade that happened earlier today. So what that is going to be is Seattle Seahawks are trading up past the Colts at pick 3. Seattle is giving up the 5th pick in this year's draft, as well as their 2024 first round pick and a 2023 5th, which is 151. And the Cardinals are just giving up the 103. So first off, I just want to get your guys' thoughts on the trade in general before we even draft the player. So, Mikey, you can go first.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad trade at all. I mean, able to nab an extra first-round pick for the Cardinals, I think that's a slam dunk. The Cardinals are obviously in a spot where they can take advantage of that third overall pick. The Colts, you never know, but it could be likely they look at quarterbacks. So if a team can jump them and get their guy, that's going to be a very valuable position. And I think the Cardinals, they bank off of it. So if Seattle is coming up to get their quarterback, I like it. If they're coming up to get a Will Anderson or a Jalen Carter, I think it was probably a little bit better to just wait. So we'll see on that.
All right. Chase?
I think it's a good pick for both. But I think it's a good pick for both, or a good trade for both teams. But like you said, depends what Seattle does with this pick before I can say that's a win-win. But Arizona definitely making out on this one.
Yeah, and the reason the deal was made, by me and you for this one, obviously Seattle wants to go get their guy, whoever that might be. In Arizona, they're kind of in the talent acquisition phase where they just need to kind of acquire picks, make sure that once, Kyler is fully healthy and ready to go, that you give him no choice but to show that he was worth every penny that you gave him and have all the tools around to succeed. So to get an extra pick this year on top of that first round pick next year, it makes a lot of sense. And at the end of the day, it's pretty similar overall to what the trade was. The Bears going for Mitch Trubisky. So this price is about what you would expect, whether it might be the Colts, the Seahawks, or somebody else that ends up moving up.
Yeah, and it takes me back even to that Justin Fields trade when the Bears moved up because they gave up a first that year and a first next year to move up to pick 10 and get fourth quarterback of that draft. So I think the value here is really good. That's why I made the deal. But looking at what is on the board and the team who is on the clock, more importantly, you have Will Anderson, who I think is the most NFL ready out of this entire draft. I think he is a monster. And then you have Jalen Carter, who has the potential to be that guy, but he does have some off-field issues. So, but not going to be choosing between two of them. I know that probably disappoints the Colts here, but it's the reality. So then you're choosing between your quarterbacks, and at the position that the Seahawks are at, you do not get this high of a pick that much for the roster that they have. So they might not be up near the top anytime soon unless Cluster's downfall happens. So right now, I'm going to go with a quarterback that needs to sit for a little bit and can sit behind Geno Smith for about 2 years and learn and can have that potential. And I think the word potential defines this man. So we're going to go ahead and take Anthony Richardson at the 103.
Yeah, it seemed like the obvious pick when they go up and make this trade, especially if this trade happens in live time. If 1 and 2 falls the way that they do, and just about anybody other than maybe the Colts goes up to pick 3, I think it's Anthony Richardson right off the board. And I would be surprised if someone goes Will Levis here. And if the Cardinals don't trade down, well, I also wouldn't be that surprised either. But this is the prime trade spot on the actual first day of the NFL draft. And if I had to bet, I would say it probably does get involved in some sort of deal. Who it might be with, I don't know. But if the Seahawks, think that this makes sense and they think they can still contend a little bit and maybe make a seamless transition down the road with Anthony Richardson, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I love the pick of Richardson to the Seahawks. Earlier, before the season even started, I said the Seahawks will not pass on a first-round quarterback in this year's draft. Then Geno Smith goes out, has the season he does, makes me look a little foolish, but I still think there's that sneaky potential of the Seahawks moving up to get Richardson. They just met with him recently. Most NFL teams are very high on Richardson, and to be able to sit behind Geno Smith for a little bit, I think is a win-win. So really like the pick there.
Great pick. Colts aren't happy, but he's got all the physical tools. Now it's just a matter of him putting it together. Like you said, sitting behind Geno for a few years. I don't think he's obviously ready to start day one. Being a Gator fan, watching him play this year, very frustrating at times. But then there's those moments where he lights it up. So I think it's a great pick. Giving him a couple years behind Geno, I think that's the way to go. So good pick there.
Thank you. All right, so Richardson to the Seahawks at the 103. Now the Indianapolis Colts are on the board. What are you going to do, Dad?
Okay, so with 3 quarterbacks being taken right off the bat, that leaves all the defensive players out there. Colts are in huge need of a quarterback, obviously, and they're not happy that 3 were taken right away. At 4, I don't feel that there's a quarterback that is worthy of the 4th pick. I don't see a franchise quarterback there, so I don't want to force it. They can go with Gardner Minshew. He's a decent quarterback. We may find a quarterback later in the draft, but the top defensive guys are out there, and they got a need at an edge rusher. They got DeForest Buckner in the middle. They got some good defensive linemen, but I think on the edge, Will Anderson makes sense, and they'll take Will Anderson.
Yeah, definitely makes a ton of sense. And for me, if I were the Cardinals GM, I might be a little upset because Will Anderson would be, my dude here. But if Tyree Wilson is really the number 1 guy, then perfect. That ends up working out well for them. And also, if I had to guess what's going to happen in the NFL draft, if it does play out this way, I still assume Colts are going to go quarterback. I don't know if they're willing to trust Gardner as the stopgap guy. And not that I necessarily agree with it, but that's just kind of how it feels to me.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
I preface that with, I believe they probably will take a quarterback, maybe Will Levis there, but I'm not a believer in him, and I'm going with who I think they should take with the best player on the board.
Yeah, and rumor is that they have Will Levis as their QB1, which I think is absolutely wild. But I think it makes a lot of sense to go after a fantastic edge rusher, Will Anderson, the number 1 in the class, as the edge rusher. They lose Yannick Ngakoue. They're not going to bring him back, and I'm not sure why, but when you lose a very good edge in Yannick Ngakoue and can still upgrade by going out and getting Will Anderson, best of both worlds there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great pick. I think he is the best player in this draft. I mean, there's really no limit to what his limit could reach. He is an absolute beast, and he can dominate every aspect of the game. So it's a great pick. All right, that will move us to pick number 5, which was the Seattle Seahawks, but now it is the Arizona Cardinals with Chase. So take it away.
Yeah, I could probably do something. I'm sitting here so bored. But with how things have played out, I think the Cardinals, if it were me, would have preferred to grab Will Anderson. I think that makes sense just because of how available edge rusher is and how strong of a prospect Will Anderson looks to me. It comes out as one of my best prospects ever. Kind of graded since I started doing this. It's kind of a tough blow. But for me, I don't care what they think. If they think Tyree Wilson's the guy, they can do that all they want. But I got to go with my number 1 player on the board, Jalen Carter. It's just, if you're going based off pure talent, this guy should be the number 1 pick in the draft. I don't think, for me, I don't think anybody should be able to argue. He does everything you want for the interior position. He can stop the run. He can rush the quarterback. He wraps up. He's just an absolute menace. He's a strong athlete. He reacts incredibly well. There's really not a hole in his game. He just has to kind of take one more step in each category, and he's like the league's premier defender. So for me, they get a absolute stud at the interior defensive position who they can still kind of build edges later on in the draft and just have a scary defensive line.
Yeah, and a lot of question marks around Will Anderson outside of the game of football right now, but I agree with you. This guy's
Jalen Carter, you mean?
Jalen Carter. That's right. Excuse me. I'm not letting this guy fall out of the top 8 if I'm any NFL team right now because of how dominant he is actually on the field. So I like the pick. I like Tyree Wilson a lot too, but when you look up and down this Cardinals roster, I mean, they need everything on the defensive line. They're starting D tackles, Rashard Lawrence, Lecky Fotu. I am totally cool placing Jalen Carter in there. Hopefully they can find the help that he needs outside of football and get him focused on football, because If he's 100% invested in the football, he's going to be the best D tackle in the league.
Yeah, I can't argue with anything you guys just said. He is probably, I think Will Anderson's a bit higher, but he is probably the best player in this draft overall. But the on-field issues do worry me a bit, which is why I have Will Anderson above him. Because, man, I don't know. Because if, let's say he goes to the Raiders, I guarantee you he gets arrested within the first 2 weeks he's there. So, but we'll just let's not draft. Let's not.
You act like there's history there. Come on.
Let's just stay away from Jalen Carter for the moment. But for the Colts, yeah, it's a great pick.
Sorry, I think Jalen Carter's a mauler. He's another, like Jordan Davis was last year. He's a great pick, and it was hard for me to decide between Anderson and Carter with the Colts. It was one of those two for sure. But he's going to be, a Pro Bowl long time, as long as he keeps his head on straight, a Pro Bowler, long-time NFL superstar.
Absolutely. So now, this is where things should get interesting, as the Lions are now on the clock, which means Mikey is up. So, are you going to anger Chase right here?
Forward down the field, the Lion team that will know you.
And
Oh, man.
their best quarterback of all time, Matthew Stafford, Will Levis reminds me a lot of him. Let's lock him. No, I'm just kidding.
That'd be a nightmare.
But I was honestly hoping that Jalen Carter would fall here as the Lions GM as of right now. I would have loved to get Jalen Carter. I know everyone's talking. You got to grab the cornerback, but I think that defensive line could use a lot of help. Get another edge rusher, other side of Hutchinson, or get a nice interior guy like Jalen Carter. However, I'm gonna go just the boring pick right now. I'm gonna go Devin Witherspoon. I think that the top two corners have a bigger gap between them and the 3 and 4 corners than Tyree Wilson does to the next, 3 or 4 defensive linemen. So I like Tyree Wilson, but here I'm gonna go Devin Witherspoon. They just got rid of Jeff Okudah. They continue to revamp that safety and corner defensive back group. So really like that. They're going to be the no-fly zone there in Detroit.
So as long as in the first 3 rounds, it really doesn't matter to me when the Lions grab a DB, specifically a corner, but they definitely need to. And if they're going 1 at 6, Devin Witherspoon is absolutely my guy. I love the way he plays. I think he's a good fit in just about any defense, and you can use him in almost any aspect. He's pretty versatile. So I can get with it, even though he is my first player I have ranked outside of a top 16 grade technically in terms of value. He's still my 13th ranked player. I think he's very solid. Going to have a pretty high end ceiling. I think he can be almost any team's true cornerback 1. So I can't hate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love both, even Gonzalez and Witherspoon. I think they're 2 great corners. I really like Witherspoon because of how physical he is. His tackling is absolutely amazing. I think it's a great pick for the Lions. I would have liked to seen him maybe go to like the Eagles in real life, because I feel like he is that physical enough to where he can maybe fill that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson role, who the Lions took from the Eagles. So that'd be interesting to see if he went there. But overall, great player, very good in zone coverage, which is really impressive. So yeah, I mean, great pick, fills a need for the Lions. Can't argue it.
No, love physical corners. That's a great pick. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but still ferocious. Gonzalez obviously is the taller, larger athlete, but you can't go wrong with either of those two. And I think Witherspoon will be a great pick.
Yeah, and I personally think Gonzalez's ceiling is higher. I really like the fluidity to his game. But I think when you look at Dan Campbell and what kind of guys he wants in his room, getting Devin Witherspoon, who just grinds it out at the line of scrimmage and also can cover really well, I think that's exactly who he's going to be looking for.
Absolutely. So, Chase, are you mad at that pick? I'm guessing no.
I can't complain.
Okay, good. All right, so now moving on to pick 7. Chase, please don't let me down.
Raiders.
The Raiders are on the clock.
Are you ready to get mad at a draft pick?
Let's do it.
So here's a couple things about the Raiders. They have lacked a winning quarterback for basically forever at this point. It's been a very long time, and they love players who just happen to have criminal records. And you know which quarterback has a criminal record?
And is a winner?
Stetson Bennett. And is a winner. Yes, exactly. Stetson Bennett is a winner. He has a criminal record. Couldn't be any more of a fit for the Raiders, which is exactly why I am taking Paris Johnson 7th overall, because that would be an absolute nightmare seeing Stetson Bennett even get drafted.
I can't complain about that.
Really, really for me, Paris Johnson, he's my offensive tackle, offensive lineman one, really. I think Skoronski probably plays on the inside in the NFL, has some versatility, but Paris Johnson, he's a true offensive tackle. I don't mind him on either side of the line. And right now, the Raiders, they just need to really strengthen up that offensive line, because like there are quite a bit of holes. It really needs to, bolster itself before they kind of go invest in a, true young quarterback, because you don't want that quarterback just, kind of getting rattled and rushed at all the time. So bringing Paris Johnson, I think he's a very safe pick on top of having a strong ceiling as well.
I can't argue it. I like it a lot. I think he's the best tackle in the draft. I love Paris Johnson. I think that it's really important to protect the quarterback, especially when your quarterback's injury prone. So Jimmy G gets the protection that he needs, and possibly a future tackle for a long time. I mean, Paris Johnson is that good. So can't argue pick. It's a little boring taking a tackle, but I mean, that's what needs to be done to build a good team. So I'm very happy with the pick.
I agree. It is a little boring. Leave it up to Chase to make the draft boring. But
hell out of here.
I think it is the right pick at this point. If you're not a believer in Will Levis, don't take a chance on him. You got Garoppolo for now. If you can build up those trenches, that's when you win football games. I mean, look at the teams that were playing in the Super Bowl this year. You have the Colts, who have one of the better young lines in the league, and then you got the Eagles, who have had maybe the top offensive line for the past 5 years. So it makes a lot of sense.
Can't agree more. I think defense is really in need, but protecting Jimmy Grapes and his fragile ankles and knees is also a need. So I can't complain with the pick. I don't know if I would have went there, but I think it's a solid pick at 7.
Okay, very nice. All right, so that brings up the Atlanta Falcons are now on the clock. So, Dad, what are you going to do?
Well, the Falcons, they did a lot in free agency. They signed a lot of players. Jesse Bates, Mac Hollins, a couple from our teams. But,
Mac Hollins is the name to mention.
But they made the trade for Okuda, and I think they signed Calais Campbell. They did some good things in free agency. I don't know if this is the Desmond Ridder era is beginning. But again, my feelings on Will Levis, so it won't be him. They need they need an edge. They need some corners. Even though they got Okuda, I think they could use another corner when there's Gonzalez is sitting out there. But I just think an athlete on the edge like Tyree Wilson is the pick, and that's where they should go.
Yeah. Tyree, he has the upside. He definitely has the upside. But seeing Trayvon Walker last year, he was the guy who had the upside, had the most down year out of all the top edge rushers that we saw last year. But overall, he's still a very good player. And even with the comparison to blanking on his name, I just said it, but comparing him to him, Trayvon Walker, we can still see what Trayvon Walker does with a full offseason, and he can come back and be a monster. So I don't think it's a bad pick at all. You take the upside. I love potential, so can't argue the pick.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about Trayvon Walker, even though I was right saying that Aiden Hutchinson was the number 1 pass rusher in the class. Not a big deal, but we're gonna move on from that. That's a discussion for another day. And when I do mocks, Tyree Wilson keeps falling to the spot just based on, how I think things are going to happen. And if that's the case, I think this is an absolute gift for the Falcons because he is someone that, I have graded very high. I think he's an elite talent who come and produce right away on top of having legitimate upside of being one of the league's just premier defenders and, of course, edge rushers. So this pick makes a ton of sense. If he's available, I don't even think they need to take 10 seconds to make their pick. Just write it on the card and run it up to the commissioner.
Yeah, slam dunk pick here. I think that he has the ceiling of a Trayvon Walker, but I also think he's coming in a little bit more polished than Trayvon Walker. He didn't see the fantastic resume that Will Anderson did in college, and he is a little bit older at 23, but overall, when you watch his tape, he doesn't look as raw as Trayvon Walker. I think he translates quicker than Trayvon Walker, so I like Tyree Wilson here at 8.
Absolutely. So that moves on to pick numero 9. So that is going to be me with the Chicago Bears. And as I don't think that there's much that needs to be touched on here, you could think of getting some more weapons for Justin Fields. But that's not what I'm going to do. I think you got to build from the trenches. And Chase, you made my choice very easy here because I was going to take Paris Johnson. I was debating between him and this other guy, but I guess there's no other option here. We're going to go with Peter Skoronski, very, very versatile tackle to where we can plug him in at guard if we need him there, or tackle. Any way to protect Justin Fields is the way to go here, so we're taking Peter Skoronski.
Yeah, and so far these mocks are playing out very similar to how I mock all the time. And Peter Skoronski to the Bears, it's just a perfect spot. When you look at someone, I think I took him last year, maybe it was the year before, but Tevin Jenkins, he's not really looking like he's going to be the guy that a lot of fans hoped. At least in my opinion, he's not. So you could bring in another young guy. Maybe Tevin Jenkins still works out. But if you can grab Peter Skoronski, a guy that you can use on the inside if needed, or who will dominate, so I don't know if I said inside or outside, but a guy you can use on the outside if needed, or a guy that can dominate on the inside. Kind of reminds me of Elijah Vera Tucker last year, where he can be one of the league's just absolutely premier guards or a very good offensive tackle. Whichever position he ends up playing, I think it makes too much sense for the Bears to pass up on.
Yeah, and I'm okay going Peter Skoronski here. He's personally my tackle 4. I see him more on the inside as a guard. I like Broderick Jones a little bit better, but I think if you're looking for a guy that's going to be ready to go day one, that's definitely Skoronski. So if this is the do or die year for Justin Fields, you want to give him the best protection overall, I think Skoronski will be better year one than Broderick Jones. I just see Broderick Jones with a little higher of a ceiling. So don't mind the pick, and excited for Justin Fields to actually not have his pocket crumble within a millisecond.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I mean, he's got the versatility that they may move him inside, and I have heard that he has the measurements. His arms are a little bit shorter than he'd like at a tackle. I think he's only 315, which can be small for a tackle. But he's a Northwestern kid, so he's right there in Chicago area. He'll do. It's another one of those safe picks, I think, and he'll be a solid starter for years to come. But I can't complain about the pick. But I agree. I think Broderick Jones may have been the better pick, but can't complain.
All right. So that brings up the Philadelphia Eagles and Mike as they acquired this pick from the New Orleans Saints, I believe. So the Eagles are on the clock.
Yeah.
Pull the trigger.
And this is a fun spot to be in because the Eagles, they just make the Super Bowl, and they're a team that really, this is just luxury pick at this point. They're not very needy at any certain position. I think that they'd like to bring in some replacement players, maybe on the offensive line, maybe at corner, because Darius Slay, he does come back, but only for 1 year. Maybe even the defensive line, continue to bulk that up because they continue to have one of the best defensive lines in the league. But right now, the thing that wins football games is not defense, but it is offense. They lose Miles Sanders. I'm taking the best running back in over a decade. Yes, better than Saquon Barkley. Give me Bijan Robinson out of Texas. Him plus Jalen Hurts. That'll make them the best rushing offense in the league, and they already have a prolific passing offense with Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown.
Yeah, it'll make him one of the best rushing offenses in the league in like years, honestly. And that's what I said. Pull the trigger for, because I want him going to the spot. Will he go to the spot? I doubt it. Just based on the Eagles' draft philosophy, they avoid high running back. But at the end of the day, you can't look at this as a running back pick. You have to look at this as an elite weapon pick, because sure, he's going to be taking snaps from the backfield as a running back does, but his route tree is way more expanded than the average running back. He goes up and he doesn't body catch. He hand catches. He go up and win contested situations. Like, he's a do it all kind of guy. He can block as well. There's nothing to not like about him. Like, he's so well polished. My number 3 player in this whole draft. I would love to see him go to the Eagles in terms of a fantasy option as well as a football option, in terms of seeing him go somewhere where he can play a lot and compete and really get used to his full capacity. So love this pick. I will be very, very, very happy if we can actually see this day one of the draft as well.
Yeah, Bijan. My God. And you want to talk about a running back prospect? I think it's possible he might be the best running back prospect ever. I mean, this guy is unreal. He, as Chase said, he can literally do anything. So if you put him behind the best offensive line in football with that mobile of a rushing quarterback, my God, the possibilities. And that's like to a point where you can almost just cut Rashad Penny to like, he is that good to where he can be that top running back. Although it would anger me a little bit, because Jalen Hurts would steal some of his touchdowns with his QB sneaks. But besides that, it's an amazing pick.
Guy's an absolute stud. I've seen comparisons of he's going to be the next, LaDainian Tomlinson going back a ways, but I mean, he does it all, and he fits that offense perfect. And that's going to be one scary offense if this really comes to fruition. My thought at 8 with Atlanta, if Tyree Wilson wasn't there, I was thinking of taking him there, because I think he is an absolute stud, and I think he's going to put juice in any offense. So I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, I mean, Bijan is unreal. So Eagles practically could get a steal at 10 there. So Eagles selected Bijan Robinson, and now Chase with a very interesting position is the Tennessee Titans. So take it away.
Definitely interesting. I have a bit of a debacle here. I've got a couple names I'm staring at on my sheet. Kind of don't know which way I want to go. In terms of personally, how selfishly I want to go, I really want to avoid 2 guys I have on this list, and I think I might do that anyway. I feel like it kind of makes sense at this aspect. There's been some talk that Will Levis is just Ryan Tannehill 2.0. I've seen that more recently. So who else to better learn to be Ryan Tannehill than from Ryan Tannehill? So give me Will Levis in the spot. They're going to need to transition to a quarterback at some point. I don't believe in Ryan Tannehill at all. I think his time is done, and Will Levis might take the job as soon as this year, maybe in training camp, maybe during the season. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think Will Levis still has a chance at success in the NFL. I know he's getting some hate, but still grades in the first round for me. I'm obviously going to prefer these other 3 guys, but I can't fault any team for wanting to take a shot on him based on the traits he does have.
Yeah, I mean, Will Levis, I mean, not my favorite quarterback, but he has fallen this far that I think it's worth to take a chance. I mean, I have him as a early second-round pick, in my personal opinion, but overall, I mean, you can take the chance on the guy, have him sit for a year. That would be reasonable, unless Ryan Tannehill is just god-awful. But don't rush the process. Have him learn, and who knows, maybe you can get a hit here with Will Levis.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think that the Titans, they need to find that young quarterback to restart with. Will Anderson dropping down here to 11, I think that's a pretty easy pick for them. I also hate the Titans, if anyone knows that. They are my second least favorite team, only behind the Pittsburgh Steelers. But
really above the Ravens.
Yeah, even the Ravens. But Will Levis, he seems like the most volatile quarterback of these top 4. So if there's one quarterback that fails, goes to the Titans, and the Titans either, get a solid quarterback or one that fails, that's cool with me. Hope he succeeds for his own career's sake, but hate the Titans, so.
Yeah, you never hate bad on anybody. He will succeed. I'm not a big fan of his, but how far has Malik Willis's stock fallen since last year? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, terrible.
I think Mikey took him with the 8th pick to the Falcons last year.
We're not even mentioning him. We're just mentioning
was.
Tannehill Levis. He's not even in the conversation, which is crazy. But good pick for Tennessee if he comes through.
Yeah. So Will Levis to the Titans. I mean, it would be nice to see him there. So we'll see what he can do. I think that's one of the better spots that he can go, rather than the Colts, where he would kind of be shoved into that starting role, or tried to be. So Will Levis goes 11. Now we're up to pick numero 12, Mikey, with the Houston Texans. They're back on the clock. What are they going to do?
Yeah,
Play
I love
Bryce
this.
Young.
I love this. It fell right into place for me. I think that, who knows, maybe they go a little spicy. They go out, get a Christian Gonzalez to pair with Derek Stingley. Maybe they look defensive line. I know that's a big need. I personally don't have Kalijah Cansey, Mozzie Smith, Brian Brzee this high. So I think I'm going to go out, get a weapon for Bryce Young. Give me the best wide receiver in this class, that being Jackson Smith and Jigba out of Ohio State.
Whew.
For me, this is a slam dunk.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody else would want to go anywhere else personally if it fell this way. Get your young quarterback that you just drafted a weapon as well, a guy who is very clearly wide receiver 1 for me. Anybody who thinks that he's not talented or he's just a slot receiver, clearly you don't watch the NFL nowadays, because viewing someone as just a slot receiver doesn't mean anything. Because you look at all the RPOs nowadays, all the quick routes, slot receivers dominate the league. They eat up yards, they eat up touchdowns, they eat up targets. So if you can get potentially the league's best slot receiver, why the hell wouldn't you do it?
Oh, Hunter Renfrow exists. Let's calm down now.
Okay, yeah, he looks like a freaking accountant.
Hey, Tyler Boyd, come on now.
Okay.
But yeah, Jackson Smith and Jigba. This makes my job a lot easier, because I was with the Patriots pick. If he was on the board, I felt like I had to take him, but I did not want to take him because I don't want to see him go to the Patriots. So
Right.
it makes my job easier. But I think he's the best receiver in this draft by a good amount too. I mean, his hands are great. I think he's the best route runner in this draft. He's got decent size to him. I mean, there's really no flaws. I think he's the most ready, and he even has the upside to get even better. So I really love the pick. Can't go wrong with it.
Top wide receiver on the board. The only, he was injured a lot last year, which can be a little bit of a concern, but he was awesome the year before. So I don't think you can go wrong with this pick. Getting Bryce a weapon on the outside, that's where I would have went myself. So good pick.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So now with that, Jackson Smith and Jigba all the way up to 12 to the Texans. Could this be the Packers pick by the time draft night comes, as the New York Jets are on the clock? So let's see. What do you have, Dad? What are you going to do here?
Well, I'm trying to get a hold of Aaron Rodgers right now. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to try to take this pick as he's going to be there, but I'm thinking you're right. If Rodgers is in town, then this pick is out of town. But either way, we're going to look at bolstering, a much needed offensive line help, and the number one tackle on the board, on my board, was Broderick Jones. So I think if this is the case, they're running to the podium and they're grabbing Broderick Jones.
Definitely can't hate. I've still got him ranked as my offensive tackle 3, 21st overall player in the class, someone very worthy of a first-round pick. So the way the offensive line has fallen so far in this class, it seems kind of like a no-brainer. Really, when you look at the Jets, other than their gross quarterback situation, which is why they're trying to get Aaron Rodgers, if they can't land him, they can get everything else in place and just kind of see what happens when training camp comes around, see who wins the job. So this pick makes a ton of sense for me.
Yeah, Broderick Jones is actually my number 13 player in the class, my offensive tackle too. So this fits perfectly for his position. I think the Jets are happy with Broderick Jones, just hoping for a little bit better development out of their guys. We know they got Mekhi Becton, a guy who had a really high ceiling, hasn't really reached that potential yet. I think Broderick Jones, another one of those guys you're going to have to develop a little bit, but once you do, he can be a fantastic offensive tackle for 5-10 plus years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this now makes my job harder with the Patriots bit because that's who I was going to go with. But so Roger Jones, I mean, I think that these top 4 tackles actually, I think are more than ready to be NFL starters and can be very good NFL tackles. And the part that gets me excited is putting Broderick Jones on the other side of Mekhi Becton, who I'm a big fan of, and I still hope he can put it together after that injury. I think that it creates a very strong offensive line to where you can have a quarterback come in and succeed right away, even if it's not Aaron Rodgers. So I love the pick. Can't argue it at all. Okay, now that puts me up with the New England Patriots, and I just had in a row that I was targeting to go after. So it's making this choice a little bit harder. But looking at the draft board, it's going to have to be a guy who I think has fallen way too far, honestly. I mean, maybe not too far, but I really do like this guy. So go ahead and give me Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon.
Yeah. If I'm the Washington Commanders, which I have the 16 spot, I am the Commanders, I'm a little upset because you're just watching like, all right, come on, keep falling. Let's get an elite talent, just fall into our lap. But same time, you can't expect him to come to the spot. So they're going to be a little upset, but they can't be heartbroken because their guy was stolen by any means. But it would have been nice value for them, and really for anybody at this spot to get a cornerback 2, a guy that I think, or cornerback 2 in this class, excuse me, a guy who has the legitimate cornerback 1 upside and one of the better players just in the league upside. I think it's just easy.
Yeah, and it makes sense. The Patriots always have a dominant corner. I think Christian Gonzalez can be another one of those. Just a little upset that he actually fell to the Patriots. I think he's worth a much higher pick, and also would not like to see him don the blue and red.
I agree. I mean, he was the top player left on my board. Bill Belichick knows what to do with defensive talent. So, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer for New England. Christian Gonzalez, tall, athletic corner. I think New England does need to get a little bit more athletic, so I think this is a great pick.
Yeah, and they need Jalen Mills, I believe, is their cornerback too, who's all right, but you definitely need to improve there. So put Christian Gonzalez in that role for sure. Okay, now that moves on to pick number 15, which is the Green Bay Packers. All right, Mike, you are up on the clock. What do you got?
Yeah, so we bring in Jordan Love as our QB1 this year, seeing Aaron Rodgers walk out the door. You know, it's a little sorrow seeing the multi-time MVP winner walk out the door, but it's been a mess as of recent. So we bring in Jordan Addison as the wide receiver at pick 15. I was going wide receiver no matter what because I wanted to slap Aaron Rodgers in the face. Like, that was the obvious one. Go get Jordan Love, some first-round wide receiver help. Between Quentin Johnston and Jordan Addison, I was looking at the two of them. They are my next 2 wide receivers after JSN. They already have the big athletic wide receivers in Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. So give me the guy that's a little bit more sure-handed. Give me the guy who's a little bit better of a route runner, a little better of a safety blanket. That's why I'm going Jordan Addison.
Yeah, it was one of 2 position groups for me if I was making this pick, and wide receiver is one of them. And 100% my next best receiver on the board is Jordan Addison, someone who I still have a high grade on, my 12th ranked player in the draft. So I can get behind it. And it really is a kick in the nuts to Aaron Rodgers because this organization for so many years, like other than paying him money, they didn't really treat him that well. They never gave him the weapons to have enough success. You know, he got 1 Super Bowl. He's got the talent, maybe the most talented quarterback of all time. But, you know, maybe Patrick Mahomes is going to take that reign. I don't know. But he had so much talent, and all you needed to do was give him like 1 weapon. And like Devontae Adams, he was there for a short time and had it, but eventually he got shipped out, and couldn't really get the full ceiling, full use out of him. And other than that, they just never even bothered. So to go and do that once Aaron Rodgers is either done playing or out the door, that's what a kick in the nuts.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean,
Anytime you can, anytime you can kick Aaron Rodgers in the nuts, it's always a good thing. So,
Agreed.
no, it's a great pick. I think Addison actually didn't he play with Pittsburgh before he went to USC? So that should help him with any kind of frozen tundra, cold weather issues.
Yeah.
But man, they're going to have some weapons for Jordan Love. Now it's time for him to prove it.
Yeah, Jordan Addison. I mean, as far as looking at the Packers receiving room right now, I think that's the right pick. 'Cause you do have the bigger guy who's still fast, but in Christian Watson. So go ahead and get the smaller guy, bigger deep threat. I like the pick a lot. That moves on to pick number 16. Washington is on the board with Chase. What are you gonna do?
I could go so many ways with this pick. Yeah, I really think almost any position wouldn't be wrong. There's some really talented edges on the board, even though it's not a big need. Just the amount of talent there, could be worth a shot. They're looking for a cornerback, like a legitimate cornerback, one upside guy. I think there's a couple guys there. They obviously need a quarterback because what they have there is not going to do. Maybe it will for a year, but long term it won't. But I think they're okay there, and seeing what they got this season, kind of make that pick next year. So I'm just going to kind of keep making sure that they have weapons in place, and I'm going to go to the tight end spot. It could be one of three guys for me. And really it's kind of one or two based on how that team operates and what they're going to need out of their tight end. And I think the option here, even though he's not my tight end one, it's going to be Michael Mayer. I think it makes a ton of sense based on it being a little more of a running offense with what they kind of want to do with that group of players, on top of still being a kind of quicker passing offense when they do decide to throw the ball. So you get Michael Mayer, who can be an every single down player. He can lead your team in snaps, really, because you can use him blocking on special teams and doing all that stuff. So he can legitimately lead your team in snaps, and he can also go out and he can run some routes. He can catch the balls. He's got enough athleticism. He's got enough receiving skill set in order to do that. So get a very well-rounded player. Even though he's my tight end 3 in the class, I still think that it makes sense.
Yeah, Michael Mayer, fantastic little player. Very sure-handed, can also help a lot in the blocking game. Excited to see him go to the Commanders. I mean, you're building around Sam Howell to see what he can actually do, giving him a true chance. You got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, who they took in the first round last year, adding another weapon here. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, you give Sam Howell a weapon, which is I think what you want to do. Getting Eric Bieniemy over there. I mean, you get a tight end who maybe can maybe be that Travis Kelce role over there. Not quite to the level of Travis, but maybe can fill that role to a certain degree. But I mean, he's not the best receiver as far as all the tight ends go, but that's all right because his blocking makes up for it. He's probably probably the best blocker as the tight ends in this draft out of them. So, but the only thing with his blocking, I think he can get some quicker hands, but he's a tight end. I'm not going to get on him too much about it. But overall, for the balance that he has between both blocking and receiving, I think it's a very good pick for a very solid player.
Yeah, another solid pick. He's, like you guys were saying, he's one of the better, if not the best, blocking tight end. And then we can put that with being a big red zone weapon as well. I think him and Washington, Kincaid, I think they're all pretty close on my board, but I think Mayer is a step above them with the blocking aspect. So I think he helps out the Redskins. They need offense. I know when I turn on a Commanders game.
I was about to say, watch yourself there.
Racist.
I don't really look for offense, so maybe this will help them out. But good pick.
Absolutely. So that brings up number 17 with my dad. The Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock.
Pittsburgh Steelers. They I think of one thing when I think of the Steelers, and that's defense. It's always been defense. They just have those dogs on the defensive end. So you could go plenty of different ways. They lost Sutton in free agency. They could use a corner. They lost middle linebacker Spillane to the Raiders. They need some defense. They also could use offensive line work. But I'm going to go with the corner, Joey Porter Jr. His dad played for the Steelers, and now he's going to be there. So I think they're going to go Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah. Yep. What I'm doing, Mox, even though he's technically a second-round grade for me, he is still my 31st player, someone who is the first player outside of a first-round grade for me. This feels like it just makes too much sense. Seems like a very seamless fit, and it seems like he's the Steelers guy, just based on everything that's going on in terms of media, in terms of how these teams are thinking based on these analysts. It seems like he's their guy. So to get your guy at that spot, it works out really well.
And here's the thing. They got to worry about covering Jamar Chase 2 times a year. It won't be 3. And T. Higgins. It won't be 3 because...
It's our boy, apparently, to you.
Yeah, apparently Tyler Boyd too.
Because they won't make it to the playoffs, so, they only have to worry about it twice. But when you look at their corners right now, Patrick Peterson, who's older than dirt, you got Witherspoon, who I'm not I don't trust him to be the number 1 guy, so I like Joey Porter here a lot.
Yeah, Joey Porter, he's really good with his hands. He's a very physical corner off the press, which is what I really like about him. And he can reroute receivers, which is really good to do as a corner. So, no complaints about it. I feel like this is the most commonly mocked player to go in the draft, possibly, because I feel like the Steelers will be getting some calls if he's on the board and they don't take him. So, overall, great pick. Very good corner. Can't argue it. All right, so that brings up now to pick number 18, and Mikey, are you going to make Chase Madden now with the Lions?
Maybe. I hope not, but I think this is another easy pick. You guys are letting everyone drop to me. I'm very appreciative of that, but when I'm thinking about the Lions, there's a couple of holes they need. Their defense continually needs to be addressed. They have a fantastic young edge rusher in Aiden Hutchinson. Now, I like Hutchinson a lot, but I see him more of the guy who will put up, 10, 12 sacks, really set the edge, bring in a lot of pressures, but he's not the best finisher for your number 1 edge player. So I want to get a guy that is a little bit opposite of him. I'm going to go with Nolan Smith out of Georgia. He is my edge 3. I currently have him as a top 10 value in my draft class. And to bring in the speed that he has, he's a great bender, great speed. To put him on the opposite side of Hutchinson, he's going to be forcing the quarterback towards Hutchinson. I think that's a great duo for the next 10 years.
So I can't say I hate the pick by any means, because I still have him as a top 16 top 16 pick in the first round in terms of value, and I do like the player a lot. I personally would like to see Myles Murphy here if I had to go with one of them, but still, Nolan Smith I'd be very excited about, because he does offer enough versatility in terms of pass rush and what he can do with coverage if needed. So he could be an every down type guy. I'm not going to complain if they can get an extra edge. That's going to really bolster a group that has Aiden Hutchinson, as well as, we'll see what James Houston does in year 2 after his very successful second half of the year last year.
Yeah, I really like the pick, as you just said. It's like fire and ice. You have the power of Aiden Hutchinson. You have the speed on the other side. That can make for a really great duo. Dude ran a 4.39. That is unheard of for his size. So really good. Can't argue the pick. He will definitely help Aiden Hutchinson out, without a doubt.
Yeah, is there ever going to be any picks that we don't like? Because another great pick here, Nolan Smith is, he was my other choice with the Steelers. I love the explosiveness. He's quick, and he's got that burst to get around the edge. And I think with Hutchinson, that could be a dynamic duo for years to come. So the Lions are getting lucky with these guys falling to them, and I just, that's a great pick. Nolan Smith. Good job.
Yeah, and I think even if I had Myles Murphy as the higher rated talent on my board, which I don't, But even if I did, I think I'd still lean Nolan Smith here. I think Miles Murphy, a little bit more similar to your Aiden Hutchinson than a guy that can maybe help Hutchinson a little bit more because both guys rely a little bit more on power. Nolan Smith, I think being able to be a true speed threat on the opposite side of Hutch, he's going to force the quarterback towards Hutchinson, which I think will help him rack up more numbers. So whereas Miles Murphy and Hutch, if they're together, I think if you got a good tackle duo, you're going to have a little bit more time than if you had Nolan Smith on the other side.
For sure. I can hear you out. And again, I'm not going to be upset. I'd still be very happy to see him go there because it still is a good value based on my rankings.
Okay, so that brings up pick number 19. Tampa Bay is now on the clock along with Chase. Chase, who are you going to take here?
All right, we ready to have some fun?
Oh, boy, yes, I am.
So there's a couple
Hooker?
options you can look here. It all depends what the Bucs want to do. Are they in a window to continue to compete? Are they looking for a retool? Or are they looking for a rebuild? If it were me and I were in the GM office here for the Bucs, I think we're still going to have to compete. I like a lot of the roster. And is Baker Mayfield the guy? I don't know. He's team hopped too much, and that's for a reason because he's just he's a guy, not the guy. And if you want to get the guy, why not get the Heisman favorite up until his injury? I'm going Hendon Hooker here at the 19th spot.
Steal of the draft right here. Chase at the 19th pick somehow got the second best quarterback in the entire draft.
Okay,
so
come on.
Bravo, Chase. Great job. Hendon Hooker. I absolutely love him. I mean, there's no argument. I feel like you guys say he's Teddy Bridgewater. I just don't see it. I think he has a much better arm than Bridgewater. I see him very accurate. The only issue I have with him is sometimes in the pocket, he'll throw it with flat feet, it's a very fixable problem. And I think that he can, in the right system, waiting a year, he can definitely be a top-tier quarterback in this league.
And even if he is Teddy Bridgewater, that's not a bad thing because, prior to his injury, he was looking like he was the future for the Vikings. And I don't think his ceiling is Teddy Bridgewater. I think stylistically he's like Teddy Bridgewater. I think his ceiling, if he does end up kind of looking how he did this last season, is a very prolific NFL quarterback. But if you can get him, even for the next 5 years, because you can pick up that fifth-year option, even if he is a bit older of a prospect, you can still get him one more contract. And that's enough where if he is good enough, you got, potentially 11 years of true competition with someone who's got some high-end upside, in my opinion. So it just seems like a good value to me.
And
I go ahead, Mike.
I get it if you're trying to keep the window open.
Steal the draft.
I mean,
steal the draft.
No, just
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I think the Bucs window is closed. I think it's time to start rebuilding.
Ooh.
I think you look for a player that has some more upside than the 29-year-old Hendon Hooker. This guy is ancient, and he probably won't even be able to play week 1 because of the injury. Or at least if he's available, he won't be fully
He
up to
shouldn't
speed.
play week 1, though. That's the thing.
Okay, so then why are we drafting him? If he's not ready to play week 1, why are we drafting him at 19? That's my question.
You've
But if
got
you
a
look at
seamless
it,
transition here. Go ahead.
all of the previous quarterbacks, way like 2000 and back, you would draft a quarterback and he would wait and play. And that's how successful quarterbacks came along. Look at Aaron Rodgers, people like that. Tom Brady didn't play right away. All these guys, they waited for their turn and then they show up. And Jordan Love's about to do it next year. He's about to go off because he waited behind a top-tier quarterback. And that is what you have to do to get successful quarterbacks. I think Hendon Hooker will do it. And I think if Anthony Richardson does it, he will do it as well.
So what's Joe
Go
Burrow?
ahead, Mike.
What Mike's trying to say is if you sit him for a couple years, he's going to be 38 by the time he becomes
Exactly. Yeah, thank you.
He'll be 28, and you'll have a
here's the thing with
solid
me.
8 years with him.
All right, my turn to chat, gentlemen, because this is my damn pick. He will not sit for 3 years. I'm telling you that right now. Wherever he goes, unless he goes to Jordan Love situation and the Chiefs draft him, because that would make no sense. But who the hell knows? That's the only time he's sitting. If he's going to the Bucs, he's going to learn the playbook while he's recovering. He's going to get himself back up to game speed by week 8, week 9. If Baker Mayfield's playing awesome, great. You can keep him rolling. If Baker Mayfield's struggling, then you turn over to Hendon Hooker, because once he's healthy, like, he's ready to go. I don't think there's any issues in terms of getting him more ready for the NFL. I think he's there. And if he can go in and just give himself time to heal, not have to rush anything, which is what Baker Mayfield would be there for, it seems like a seamless transition.
And I think this is a hard pick to choose because you just don't really know. I mean, on the defensive side, maybe you stock up the interior of the defensive line a little bit. When you look at the offense, the quarterback is the easy weak spot there. But me personally, I think their window's closed. I don't think Hendon Hooker this year helps them over Baker Mayfield. I think they're pretty.
Oh, wow.
I think they're pretty apples to apples as of this year. I think he will definitely be better, but I think I'd probably prefer to go after like a Darnell Wright, maybe a Brian Brzee or a Mozzie Smith, get a little bit more of a developmental piece that can also help day one versus I just don't see it with Hooker. He's a round 2 grade for a reason for me.
I was playing devil's advocate with you, Chase. I think I like Hooker. I think that's gonna be one of the more fascinating things in the draft is to watch these teams in the second round picks that may want him. Who's gonna trade up far enough to be the first one to take him? And you did that at 19. I think that's gonna be fun to watch. I think he's gonna be a great starter in the league. So that's my opinion, but I don't know what you guys think.
The first divisive pick of the draft.
Yeah, before we move on, I do want to say I think it would be a shock for me if he doesn't go in the first round, because as long as teams feel like he's ready to go, which I think he is once he's healthy, why not get a guy who, he doesn't have much more room to grow until he's in his prime. And if you have everything else there ready to go, then you can still pick up a 5th-year option. Again, like I said, he'll be 20, 28, 29, 30 in that range once he's got that 5th-year option, getting that second contract. And yeah, it's a little scary because the only other quarterback who was old to go in the first round was Brandon Weeden, and that was an absolute nightmare. But it's not the same player. It's not the same case. I think that the Bucs have enough resources here where they can kind of keep the window open, even if this has to be a bit of a retool for 1 year, maybe 2. You're still going to have enough talent with Hendon Hooker to make it work.
Can't agree more, Chase. Great take. One of your greatest of all time.
Okay, now I feel bad about it.
All right, now we're on to pick 20. I'm up with Seattle. We just got Anthony Richardson. Looking for the future, not really helping out the team this year. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to help out the team this year. We're going to go ahead and take a piece on the defensive side of the ball that we need. We're going to go ahead and take interior D lineman Kalijah Cansey.
Interesting pick.
I'm a Kalijah Cansey guy. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I also like Kalijah Cansey. I don't know how I've got him a little bit lower than this. And that's why I kind of shied away with interior defensive line with some of my former picks. But he definitely has a high ceiling. I think he can make an impact day one. It might not be as impactful as some of these other guys. I think maybe Brian Brzee or Mozzie Smith might have a little bit more. But I think overall, Kalijah Cansey is a phenomenal rusher from the interior and could really make a good case for being the second best defensive lineman in this class.
But his biggest weakness, I think, is when he's going up against a more athletic blocker, he fails more than not. So with getting more athletic people in the league, like Quentin Nelson and Peter Skoronski, people like that, it's kind of more scary for him. But I think that his upside is absolutely unbelievable when he does face non-athletic interior blockers, if that makes sense. He is dominant, and I think he's a good fit for the Seahawks.
Right.
So my interior D lineman 3 here. My number 2 is Mozzie Smith, and it's kind of a case of 2 players. One who I feel much safer about. I think Mozzie Smith is locked and loaded to be a very, very nice defensive tackle for a good chunk of his career. Where Kalijah Cansey, I think it's boom or bust. I don't think it's really anywhere in between. He either excels and becomes the Dollar Tree version of Aaron Donald, or he flops and he's out of the league after his rookie contract. I think those are the only options here. And the Seahawks, I think they're in a spot where they can afford to take that shot because I still think there's enough there where they can figure it out. They made the playoffs this year. There's a chance that they could still compete and make a playoff push. But now that you got this young quarterback in with Anthony Richardson, give him time to develop. Let Kalijah Kancey figure his things out. If both end up hitting at the same time, all of a sudden you have two absolutely dynamic pieces added to your team, which completely changes everything.
I think, it's a good pick. I do worry, obviously, about the size. I think if you are drafting Richardson, maybe you go out and get him a weapon or something like that. But, Kalijah Kancey's, I had him at the end of the first round. He's a scary pick for me because I don't know with his size how well he's going to translate into the NFL, but there's a lot of people that like him, and he's getting a lot of high grades. So,
all right, Kalijah Kancey, number 22, Seattle. Now up with Los Angeles Chargers. I don't know why I almost said San Diego, but now on to the Chargers. My dad. What do you got?
Is Bijan Robinson still out there?
Fortunately not.
That was a joke. I don't know what's going on with Eckler. It sounds like they're going to cut him, but that would be maybe trying to trade up to get Bijan if I was the Chargers. That's not the case in this draft. So they got a good amount of needs. They can't stop the run as usual. It's been that way for a few years now. Can always still want to get protection for Herbert. But I think a guy that's on top of my board, I'm a big take the best guy available. And for me, that is Myles Murphy. I think he's an athletic edge guy that will help out. I know they got Khalil and Bosa, but if they can stay on the field is one thing. So I think Myles Murphy is a great fit for them to help out the defense.
You're getting your edge of the future here, which is definitely big. And even if he isn't an every down guy as a rookie, as you mentioned, those two names, a bit injury prone, a bit older. And if you can get a talent in like Myles Murphy, who he can be that dude for, 10 plus years like that is a very nice value. My 8th ranked player in the draft. So this comes out to be a really nice value overall. I would very much like to see them go with an offensive weapon as well, though. If they, if it comes down to it and Myles Murphy's off the board and, a couple edges are off the board, a couple high ranked guys for me. If they go with, of the remaining receivers, the guys that I like, Quentin Johnson, Jalen Hyatt, Zay Flowers, if they go with, any of them, that would also be very exciting too. But I definitely cannot hate on this pick.
Yeah, Myles Murphy, really, really like him. I mean, he is very scheme versatile as well, which is what I also like about him. And then he has such a sudden first step, which allows a amazing pass rush. Once you have that first step, it's like everything. Only weakness is sometimes I feel like he rides the pocket, if that makes sense a little too much. He rushes upfield too much, like beyond the depth of the pocket, so that allows the quarterbacks to step up a little bit. But it's just a minor issue. It can easily be fixed. So Myles Murphy, great pick.
Yeah, Myles Murphy, one of the top 3 left on my board. The Chargers defense, it feels like they should be one of the best defenses in the league every year, but then injuries and poor play just continues to plague them. So adding depth in one of the most important positions on the defensive side and a guy that will be a long-term future starter, I love the pick in Myles Murphy.
And not only that, you say best defense. We always say that they're going to be one of the best teams in the league.
But they stink.
And they always just let us down. They always let us down. Okay, now moving on to pick 22. Baltimore is on the clock with me. And I'm really debating between two guys here. Hendon Hooker would have been an option for me at 22 because we're really uncertain with Lamar, but he is now off the board. So it's going to be really hard to find that franchise quarterback. So we're going to do our best to keep Lamar happy. Give me Quentin Johnston out of TCU.
Nice.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Well, I kind of wanted to make a case for Stetson Bennett here. They bring in Todd Monken, the Georgia, the Georgia offensive coordinator from the last couple of years. Todd Monken, Stetson Bennett. They know each other really well. And if Lamar doesn't have a contract done by this point, I mean, you gotta take someone, right? Maybe not in the first round, maybe second round. But I was trying to make a case for Stetson Bennett, but I like to pick. I mean, OBJ, who is old and coming off of an ACL, but then also we heard that he didn't have an ACL, but then somehow he tore his ACL. I'm not really sure how that all works. And then Rashad Bateman.
I don't know how you tear your ACL that's not there.
Right. And then Rashad Bateman, who struggled a little bit, really coming into his own. So adding a big-time receiver like Quentin Johnson, nice little pick.
You now have 4 very unique receiving options in this offense with obviously Mark Andrews, Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, and now Quentin Johnson. 4 guys that have different builds, do kind of different things, and really offers you that legitimate versatility. And if Lamar didn't want to find a way to come back and maybe take a little less money, a little less guaranteed to play at those weapons, then I don't know what the hell it would take for him to come back. If he doesn't at that point, he's just good as gone. It seems like a slam dunk for me if you can have that kind of offense on top of providing the defense that they usually do, having a very, very sound defense in the league. I mean, this is a team that could have quite a good run this year.
Yeah, it's a solid pick, but and he's one of the best wide receivers. There's a couple others that are up there at this point, but my worry is any receiver that goes to Baltimore, what happens to him?
Right.
I feel bad for Quentin Johnson with this pick. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, fair.
He is to me, he's the Anthony Richardson of the receivers because he has so many great assets that can make him the top receiver in this draft without a doubt. His route running for his size is incredible. His speed for his size is incredible. But then the hands is just a big issue that needs to get fixed. So it's a risk, but it's definitely a risk that is worth taking, especially if you want to keep Lamar happy. So now the Vikings are on the clock. Mike, what are you going to do?
Yeah, this is a fun pick for me. I don't know if you guys know who the new defensive coordinator over with the Vikings is, but that's Brian Flores. He has a lot of fun with the defense and the certain player type that he likes to look for, sure tacklers. I mean, he had Minka with the Dolphins, then he goes back to the Steelers to be DC, has Minka again. I think they go Brian Branch here. I don't think safety is the biggest need in that secondary. I think corner might be a little bit bigger, but give me Brian Branch because I think he can play the slot. I think he can play safety. He's also going to be your future guy once Harrison Smith retires. The surest tackler of any defensive back in this class. I like it.
If it were me, maybe I'm looking
I love it.
receiver to add to Justin Jefferson right now. It's just really kind of him, and Kirk Cousins needs a little more help, but I cannot complain about this at all, as he is one of just the better talents in the draft. And if you can get defensive talent, especially DB talent nowadays with how the NFL runs, it seems pretty easy. And even though I might go a different route here for myself, I don't think it's a bad pick.
I just want to say real quick, Chase swears by being a KJ Osborne fan. He just said Justin Jefferson's the only wide receiver in that room, so maybe he's not a KJ Osborne fan. I'm just saying.
I still am, but he's going to man the slot, and then a couple of receivers left can play on the outside. That's all.
I'm just saying.
The receiver's not the problem. It's Kirk Cousins.
Well, true.
That's why Hendon Hooker might go there.
Right.
Then they'll have a real quarterback.
Tampa snaked him. I love the pick, Mike. Brian Branch I think he's going to be the stud and a quarterback of the defense for a long time. Mm-hmm. I think I love his physicality, and he's a ball hawk. He's everything. I think that's a great pick, and even if it's not the hugest need, it's again best player available type of thing where I take him. I think that's a great pick, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can't agree more. I mean, as he said, my dad said, the quarterback of the defense, his football IQ is that high, and that's what I love about him. He can really run a defense, and he's very very physical also, I see, for attacking blockers very well, which is what I like. And then he's also a ball hawk, as you guys said. So very good pick. I think he would fit very, very well in that Vikings in the Vikings, and Harrison Smith is still there, if I'm correct, right?
Yes.
So being able to learn behind Harrison Smith will definitely be a big help as well. Okay, moving on to pick 24, Chase's team away from home, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I'm big Jags guy. In case the listeners do not know, I am very excited for the future of this team. They're looking very up. Trevor Lawrence had a hell of a season. Evan Ingram is that guy. Apparently, he had a hell of a year, especially a great stretch down the run. I really hope he continues that. I know I'm seeing people say that, well, they should grab tight end. They only got Evan Ingram on a 1-year deal, and I can understand to an extent. But if he has another strong season, then you got to start doing 2 tight end sets if you go 1 in the first round. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of a pick. So I'm going to avoid that. They can hit that up a little bit later in the draft because there are some good options at that point. And for me, it's mostly just the best defensive player available, I think. Just, cornerback, edge are 2 needs. You can line something up, alongside Josh Allen. That'd be very nice. And, kind of how my rankings work out, it's between 2 guys, but I'm going to lean Lucas Van Ness. I think you can get another guy who I think, has that versatility at the edge position, someone that, he's still looking to prove a little bit. It wasn't always an every down type of guy in college. It never really got to be that starter, but when you look at the talent, when you look at the film, it's all there. I think that you can line them up alongside Josh Allen, and quarterbacks are going to just, they're going to be pissing their pants because you got 2 very scary pass rushers, 2 guys that are hard to kind of contain, from those offensive tackles. It would make for a really fun defense.
I like the pick. I think, like you said, having those both edges with that could be ferocious. Solid guy. He's been rising. He's been rising up the draft boards. It seems since the last couple months. So I think getting him at 24 seems like a pretty good value at this point because I see him sneaking in, higher than that, even getting close to the top 10. So I think that's a great pick.
Yeah, and I think Lucas Van Ness is the right piece opposite of Josh Allen, similar to how I was talking about Nolan Smith and Aiden Hutchinson. Josh Allen, he is that dominant pass rusher on the outside. He can also set the edge, but I think you want to focus on more pass rushing for him, and I think bringing in Lucas Van Ness to kind of be that guy that can set the edge a little bit, be a good run stopper, but also get some pressures himself is a good pick. I personally like BJ Ojolari as a pass rusher better, but when we're talking scheme fit, I think Lucas Van Ness does a nice job there.
Yeah, can't agree more. This guy, when I see him, I feel like he is a Lions player because he's just that first guy in, last guy out type of guy. He has a very fit prototypical frame, which is very nice. He's very big, hustles a lot. I would love to see this guy in a Lions uniform, so that would be really nice to see. But a great pick. There's a lot of great picks in this draft, but to the Jags also, that's a great sight to see, so can't go wrong with it. So that brings up pick 25 with New York Giants. My father.
The G-Man. Well, they put their faith in old Danny Dimes.
Yes, they did.
I'm not sure what they're doing there. They forced them to put the franchise on Saquon. So I don't know what's going to go on with that as well. Signed a lot of wide receivers that were on 1-year deals. I think Paris Campbell and Sterling Shepard's back, and Slayton re-signed. Trade for Darren Waller, so they do have weapons. They could always use another wideout for maybe a stud wideout, but I think they need a cornerback as well, and I really love Deonte Banks, and that's who they're going to go with. I love his physicality on the corner, so we're going Deonte Banks.
Yeah, can't complain. Sorry, I was just looking at my board and some stuff here, discussing some things, but I can't complain.
Yeah, I got Deonte Banks as my 22nd ranked player. I like Banks' physicality. I think he's got just blazing speed. This is a guy that's going to be able to help on the defensive side of the ball for sure. Excited to see them actually try to develop Deonte Banks into that next guy. It feels like they've really been lacking that true corner one for quite some time. So excited for that.
Yeah, this
I
guy.
do want to throw out real quick.
go ahead.
Apologize, Lando. I do have one corner above him, but that is Emmanuel Forbes. I'll just say it. It's not like it's a huge drop off. I have Emmanuel Forbes as a late first round grade, and Deonte Banks is an early day too, but their grades are not very far off, so I'm not going to complain about it.
I mean, this guy. I mean, I love corners who can use their hands well, and this guy can use his hands well. I mean, he can mirror the receiver well. He's very good at all that. He's very good coverage, and then he has a great size for a corner. So I mean, it's a great pick. Again, I mean, you can't really argue it. So Deonte Banks, especially to the Giants, who are a physical team, which I like to see. Okay, now pick number 26. So Cowboys are on the clock, which is me. So looking at here, Cowboys are an interesting spot because you're really not sure what they should do. But they did just get Stephon Gilmore. What I think they need, I think they need help on the defensive side of the ball. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and take Ryan Brees out of Clemson. If I pronounce his name right.
It's Brian Brissy, but not a big deal. A guy I've got the first round. Easy guy to root for. I do really like the talent, and I think it can be a very good fit. Someone that maybe you could he's gonna play interior. Maybe you could even use him as an extra year guy a little bit too, if needed. Because I just think he's got enough talent, enough IQ, and enough athleticism. So I do like this pick overall.
Yeah, and the Cowboys' defensive line pretty young right now, pretty unexperienced. I think you bring in another guy, Brian Brzee, that I think has the highest ceiling of all of them, Osa Odigizua, as well as Neville Gallimore, excuse me. I think Brian Brzee brings an upgrade to those two guys.
Solid pick for the Dallas defense. With putting him with Micah Parsons and a couple other guys on that defense will definitely help out. He's big and physical, and all you hear about him is his explosiveness and his power. So I think that'll bring a much needed physicality to the Dallas defense. It's a good pick.
Okay, so that brings up pick number 27. So that is Chase and the Bills. But I am receiving information that the pick has been traded.
Whoa!
Pick has been traded. It has
So,
been traded.
I'll announce the details here. So the Buffalo Bills trade pick 27 in this draft to the New England Patriots for their second, third round picks. Don't know the numbers right off the rip, so I apologize. But really, the reasoning for this for me is I don't have the Bills really dying for one need. I think they're just kind of in the talent acquisition phase as well, where just like they're ready to win. So if you can just add kind of anybody anywhere talent wise, except for quarterback, I would say, then you're gonna do fine. So why not, go later on where how my board ranks and how this draft has fallen, you're still gonna be able to get some good talent there in the second round.
All right.
And my reason for trading, actually, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the trade so far. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's interesting. I'm not too sure what the Patriots traded up for. If it's a wide receiver, which, yes, is a desperate need for them, I don't personally think that it's worth it to come up and get that wide receiver, as well as the Bills. I was hoping they'd just rip the Band-Aid and actually go full tilt towards a good running back, maybe a Jahmyr Gibbs. But interesting. I'm excited to see where you go.
If Bijan fell, I wouldn't have traded.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's the thing, Buffalo. It's for them. I think trading back, that's a good thing. They don't have many picks. I think they only have 6 in the draft this year, so that's not a bad thing for them. Not sure. I think the Patriots went Gonzalez with the first pick. Is that who they went with?
Yep.
Correct.
So I'll be interested to see where they're going with this one.
my reason for trading up with the Patriots is because we want to build around Mac Jones because I like to see in my quarterbacks is right away 1 year if he can do it. If he can't, you move on the next year. So that's what we're gonna do with Mac Jones right now. We're gonna build a solid offense around him. And Mikey, I'm gonna break your heart with this as the Bengals are the next pick. But I don't know how this guy fell this far. I had to trade up to get him. We're going with tackle Darnell Wright out of Tennessee.
That does break my heart. I thought that was the slam dunk pick for the Bengals. He is my offensive tackle 3, and I think he fits perfectly on the right side. That's why I was loving him to the Bengals. So that breaks my heart. Makes sense. I don't think it was their biggest need, but overall, if you can build the trenches, that's never a bad thing.
Never going to get a complaint from me from building from the inside out. So, solid pick. Making the Bengals scramble a little bit here, but we'll work on that. Go ahead.
The great thing for me on this one is I'm feeling good from the Bills because even, offensive tackle was a thought I had here. But Darnell Wright's my offensive tackle 7. Guy I've still got the second round grade, but there's still plenty of guys I would have taken on the board over him, whether it be interior or exterior. So I'm not sweating it here at this point. If they really want to grab one of these tackles that I have ranked higher, then they can use, that second round pick that they traded for plus theirs to go move up a little bit earlier in the second round and grab like a later pick at that point. So I think this works out very well for the Bills.
Okay. Darnell Wright to the Patriots, and now that brings up the Bengals with my dad. Who are you going to go with?
Darnell Wright's off the board.
Yeah, let's not mess this up, okay?
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. We're gonna pivot. We got Hayden Hurst is not on the team anymore, and I'm gonna get Joey Burrow another weapon. Which one is it? Kincaid, Washington. We're going with the big fella, Darnell Washington.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike. This is your team, so please go.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So I've never been the biggest fan of taking tight end here at 28. I think the class is just so deep; it's not needed. I think Darnell Washington could be a nice little piece because he adds to the offensive line. He's a very good blocker, so I think that could help a lot. But he's personally my tight end 4, which I know a little bit surprising there. But overall, looking at the draft board, I mean, for me, if it's draft night and this is how it fell, I'm either hoping for Kincaid, Washington, Anton Harrison, and that's probably about it. Maybe DeJuan Jones, but I think overall it's a solid pick. It is very possible that it is the actual pick, what they're going to go with, but I just, overall, I've written off tight end at 28. I think the position group's too deep.
And I've got Darnell Washington as my tight end 1, and it was a debate between him and Michael Mayer going to the Commanders, but I thought Michael Mayer made more sense, even though Washington is a very strong blocker in his own right. It seemed like it wasn't a right fit there, and personally for me, it also doesn't seem like a right fit here. I think if they go tight end, just Dalton Kincaid, just for whatever reason, I could see him wearing a Bengals jersey where, when I'm looking at Darnell Washington, it just doesn't look right in my brain. I don't, it's not really a good enough analysis, but it kind of is the truth for me. I think Kincaid would be a really nice complementary piece to this offense, but also Darnell Washington, especially kind of seeing what the Bengals do with their running back position going into the year. I think this could be a really nice guy who, again, like Michael Mayer, could be basically every down guy for you.
Yeah, I really like the pick. Big tight end, athletic, which is what we like to see. Decently fast, 4.64, very nice. And then he can catch the ball, which is nice also. Footwork needs work on the block. He's not the best blocker, but overall, I think it will complement the Bengals in a very fine way to where they can really dish out the ball now. So, yeah, I like the pick. Brings up pick 29, and I am honestly torn right now with the Saints. Do I see the two issues Carr had? He couldn't throw under pressure, and he always had to score 30 points. So do I want to compliment the defense or do I want to compliment the O-line? I feel that the Saints already have a solid O-line, so I'm going to take a bit of a gamble here, but not really because I think that this defensive player is absolutely outstanding. and is extremely underrated. Give me Drew Sanders out of Arkansas.
Oh, okay. Well, Landon, I hate this pick. This is horrible. You have a
Drew Sanders
borderline.
is awesome.
You have a borderline generational talent at the linebacker position with Jack Campbell. So if you're looking for that type of player, I don't know why you don't go Jack Campbell, a guy who I feel extremely confident in every aspect of the game, and even rushing the pass, I think he can do that. But Drew Sanders and Jack Campbell are the same types of players to me, where Jack Campbell is just better in every single aspect. So I hate that pick. Jack Campbell is my 10th ranked player in the class, so I don't know why you'd pass up on that if you're going for the exact same type of player.
Drew Sanders is well, he's a bit interesting.
My 75th ranked player, by the way.
75th?
Ranked player, yep.
I'll have to take a peek, but I know I have a fringe round 2, round 3 grade on him. I just don't think this linebacker class is very talented, and if you're going to take one, I got to agree with Chase. It would be Jack Campbell. Looking at my grades now, Drew Sanders, my 83rd player in the class.
You guys are just wrong.
Oh,
Jack Campbell.
I'll give him a little bit more. I give him a little bit more love than that. I think he's a early mid second round pick. I think he'll be off the board probably near the second round. I like him. I think he's got tremendous size. I love Jack Campbell too. I think those two linebackers are going to be solid linebackers. But like you said, Mikey, I mean this linebacker draft is not the greatest and doesn't have a lot of depth. So,
and
if you want to get your guy, get your guy.
Yeah. Even though the line, go get your guy. At the end of the day, if you're a firm believer in him, you can get the 5th year option. If he hits, then that's awesome. But for me, I'd understand the linebacker position. It's kind of getting devalued in the NFL. And, a few years ago, a couple of these guys, especially like a Jack Campbell, and if you think Drew Sanders is that guy, which I can understand to an extent, that like they would be top half of the first round picks. But it's changing now with it being, much more of a passing game. You're finding more teams that run, 5 DB sets. So they're trying to get, like the most that they can out of that defensive back group, which limits the amount of snaps that the linebackers are going to take. So I can get it to that, that aspect, but I'm still a firm believer in the linebacking core. If you have one of the best linebackers in the league, it can completely change your offense. Those guys tend to be the leaders. They wear the green dots. They're the ones that are making the adjustments. So they're the ones calling out, what's going on in the offense. And Jack Campbell is the guy who would clearly do it for me, but I don't think Drew Sanders will be bad by any means.
I mean, you guys just have to see when he steps on the field, because Drew Sanders is him. Not Jack Campbell. I like Jack Campbell too. I think they're very similar, but I just give that to Drew Sanders because I think he's a little quicker.
I've got Jack Campbell as with top 16 like worthy pick and my 10th ranked player in the class. So that to compare to 75, who I have a ranked middle third. Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, Chase is a little crazy though. He thinks Jack Campbell's like otherworldly, which he's not. But overall, like I hope the best for Drew Sanders.
Come on.
The Kobe Dean is going to be awesome this year.
Yeah, the Kobe Dean was your highest graded prospect you've ever freaking viewed based on your thoughts on last year.
He was my 3rd in last year's draft. My 3rd. Behind Sauce Gardner, who was my number 1. Probably the right one. And then Jordan Davis. So. Eagles got 2. I guarantee you, the Kobe Dean breakout year this year. Edwards is gone, so he's gonna have that role to step in, and he's gonna play. So you will see.
Yeah, we'll see him play.
And you'll see him play at a high level.
Move on. We're good. Move on.
Pick 30. Like, you go ahead with the Eagles. Who do you taking?
Yeah, I mean, another luxury pick here. I don't think there's really any huge needs for this Eagles team. I stated that before. You get Bijan Robinson at 10th. I'm looking trenches here. There's some older players on each side of the ball, but Jason Kelsey, he talked about retirement, Could that be the possibility? He decided to stay for one more year. When I'm looking at the Eagles depth chart, right now at guard, you have Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens. Both guys can play that center position, but I still want to add some depth to the interior of the offensive line. So I'm going the best interior offensive lineman on the board, Osiris Torrance out of Florida. Hasn't given up a sack in his whole college career. I think once Jason Kelce moves on, you move either Jurgens or Dickerson into the middle, and then you got a fantastic guard and Torrance to build around.
Yep, very high in Osiris Torrance. I think he is talented, 27th ranked player in the class for me. And, the way this draft has gone, I only have 5 players left with first round grades still available. And that speaks to you guys being relatively in the same boat as I am on a lot of these picks, which might be a little boring, but at least we had a little bit of spice there in a couple of these picks. But it's, as you said, a luxury pick. Just kind of take whoever and let them, let them figure out the stuff. If they're good enough, great. If they're not good enough right away, it doesn't really matter. They're still good to go. So I like it.
Yeah, I mean, this was the other guy I was debating about taking with the Saints pick. So, I mean, I can't really argue it. Very good. As you said, never given up a sack in his college career. That is very good. I mean, very broad across. He's a big guy, which is what I like. So, I mean, big guards. I mean, it's perfect. You have Landon Dickerson, used to play center. You slide him over. It's a perfect fit.
Great pick. I mean, he's a mauler. His size, he's as big as most offensive tackles. So, saw him a lot at Florida, and he mauls people. He's got power. He does everything. And like you said, not giving up any sacks. So, just another luxury pick for the Eagles, and the rich get richer.
I'm sure Bijan Robinson would love to play behind that big boy.
Oh, yeah.
He would. All right. Moves on to the final pick of the draft because the Dolphins pick was forfeited. So that brings up Chase with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City, if you don't know, they're pretty good overall. They've won a couple of Super Bowls in the last few years.
No, they're not. They're terrible.
All right, that's my bad. That's on me.
Tanner McKee.
So, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is, last year really seemed like a down year. I think he might be done. And a team that has won the last few years needs to keep getting, wins. So that's why Stetson Bennett's such a great fit. And for that reason, no. We've joked about Stetson Bennett this whole episode, and if he's a 6th round pick, he should consider himself lucky. But anyway, moving on. I've got 2 listed needs: weapons on the offense and pass rush. And when you're kind of looking at how this draft has gone, I think you can still have some good pass rushers available, and you've got some great receivers available as well. A couple guys at the receiver position that are still left for me, and I'm leaning offense in this pick, is Jalen Hyatt. It is Zay Flowers. Even if you want to go running back, you still got Jahmyr Gibbs, who I have graded with a 1st round pick. But what's the fun in that? Why not go Dalton Kincaid, get an elite tight end?
That is who I was thinking too.
Yeah.
I cannot go wrong with that pick at all.
You get your replacement when Travis Kelce's done. I think a seamless transition at that point. You just run 2 tight end sets for a couple of years, and you still continue to have one of the league's most prolific passing offenses. This would be a ton of fun. People might think it's a bad pick in terms of, he's not going to play a lot, or fantasy ownership, we're going to minimize value. But they're just going to run 2 tight end sets at that point, and they're both going to be constantly running routes and really just disrupting that short to medium, kind of field of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the pick, but I love the pick at the same time because I don't want this to happen because he's such a good player. But you're right. If Dalton Kincaid goes into Kansas City, because we don't know how long Travis Kelce has left. He's getting up there in age. He's still the best tight end in the league. You're telling me he can learn behind Kelce, run these 2 tight end sets as they already kind of do. You plug him in there, he learns behind, and then once Kelce's gone, you possibly have another top 10 tight end in the league. So I think it's a great pick for the future. There's no doubt about it. Can't go wrong with it.
Sounds like a Andy Reid pick to me. This is something that he thinks out of the box, and I think that's a great pick. They may have a few other minor needs, but you're coming off another great year. Dalton Kincaid is just going to add to the bonanza of weapons and the offense that just puts up points left and right. That's a great Andy Reid pick for me.
Yeah, and I don't mean to break anyone's hearts here, but not the biggest fan of this pick. I like that Dalton Kincaid can learn behind Travis Kelce. I have Dalton Kincaid as my tight end 1, and I said in my analysis that he could be a baby Kelce with some of the things you see on his tape. But 2 tight end sets, that's great, but how do you stretch the field? You've got Marquez Valdez, Scantling, Kadarius Toney, and Sky Moore, all guys that haven't done too much. I think Jalen Hyatt, even though I'm not a Jalen Hyatt guy, I think him trying to fill a Tyreek role would be a lot of fun. I think Zay Flowers, extremely quick. I personally would have preferred to go wide receiver here, but Dalton Kincaid, a fantastic tight end, and I think learning behind Kelce would just give Mahomes another Kelce for many, many years after he actually retires.
I mean, yeah, it's a phenomenal pick.
Can't argue.
It's a phenomenal pick. I mean, is there a pick besides Clyde Edwards-Helaire that Andy Reid has made that has been a bad pick in the first round? There really hasn't. So, I mean, can't argue it. It's such an Andy Reid pick. I would hate to see it, but I wouldn't be able to argue it at the same time. So that is going to conclude the Locker Room Mock Draft. I want to thank you guys for coming on. It's always a good time having you guys on with our debates. And we'll see at the end of the year that Drew Sanders will be one of the best linebackers in the league. So just letting you guys know. So we will be there. But I just want to thank you guys for coming on. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed it. I had fun with you guys.
I got to say, though,
Always.
I think I had the best draft. Appreciate it, though.
How could you possibly have the best draft when I had the best draft?
It's weird because I thought I had the best draft. So,
all jokes aside, who do you guys think had the best draft? Make sure you comment down below. Who do you think was the best GM in these scenarios? And make sure you guys like and subscribe to my channel, and also go over to the WNP podcast. Make sure you show them some love. I want to thank them again for coming on here, as well as my dad. So that is going to wrap up the 2023 Locker Room Mock Draft. Hopefully we see you next year, and maybe by April 27th comes, who will you guys think had the best draft? Comment down below. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.